Today we're going to be looking at this assignment that's called Critical Thinking Questions. We are going to be using both of our stories, one of them called The Great Stink and the other called Toilets of the Future. You cannot do this section unless you've read both of those stories. So if you haven't read The Great Stink and Toilets of the Future, you need to stop right now and go back and read before you do this assignment. Otherwise, you're not going to know how to answer any of the questions. Question number 1. Consider the innovations discussed in The Great Stink, the flush toilet, and the sewer systems. Why do they teach us about how innovation influences our life? Okay, so let's look at it again. Consider the innovations discussed in The Great Stink, the flush toilet, and the sewer systems. What do they teach us about how innovation influences our lives? So why are they teaching us this? And why does innovation influence our lives? Question number 2. How can a crisis help lead to important change? Okay, this is a really interesting question because when there's a crisis, how does it lead to change in our society? And right now we are in a crisis situation with the COVID-19, that's the pandemic. Think about this. How has that changed our lives? How does a crisis help us change? What does it do? So this is a good question for you to answer. Just think about the situation we're in right now. How has our lives changed? And the last question. In what ways, if any, do you think differently about water and sanitation after reading this article? This one is your personal opinion. How do you think differently now about water and sanitation after reading these articles? I know that I never really thought about the sewer system, but after I read this article, it sort of became interesting. I learned something new about sanitation. So go ahead and complete this assignment, and good luck on it. Remember what I said. If you haven't read The Great Stink and Toilets of the Future, read those first.